look at the single column cash book. So the single column cash book only records cash receipts and payment. All the cash receipts are recorded on the debit side and the cash payment on the credit side. The single column cash book is mostly used by businesses that don't have a bank account and therefore don't receive check and don't pay out money by check. So let us now look at the format of the single column cash book. So it starts with the title of the cash book. Then in the first column we have the date, in the second column we have details, in the third column we have folio, in our fourth column we have our debit, and in our last column we have our credit. Let us now look at what you need to consider when recording transaction in the single column cash book. So the first thing we have, the cash book is divided into two equal parts, the left hand side and the right hand side. The left hand side is marked with the abbreviation DR, which means debit side. The debit side records all cash that is received. The right hand side is marked with the abbreviation CR, which means credit side. The credit side records all cash that is paid out. Then transactions are recorded in order of dates, beginning with those that took place on earlier dates, followed by those that took place on later dates. Then we also have the date column is used to record dates when the transaction had to take place in their order from first date to last date. Then in the details or particulars column is where we record the name of the other transaction affected by the same transaction. With cash transaction, the first account affected is the cash account. So in the cash book, the details records the second account affected by the same transaction. Then we have the reference or folio column. Here we record the page number of other accounts or subsidiary books where the transaction is the same. Then we also have, when preparing a cash book for a new business, the amount of money used to start a business is recorded on the debit side or left hand side of the cash, and the name of the other account affected, which is written in details column, is capital. When preparing a cash book for an already existing business, we begin by recording on the debit side or left hand side the amount of cash the business has brought forward from the previous period. The name of the account still affected is capital, but this time in details column we write the word balance B/F, meaning balance brought forward to describe the transaction. Then we also have the single column cash book should be balanced at the end of each given period. Let us now look at on how you can balance a single column cash book. So the cash book is balanced at the end of a given period, say 1 month, when all the transactions have been recorded. So let us look at the following steps. So we have the first step, make sure that all the transactions of a specific period had been properly recorded. Our second step, we have total up the amounts on the debit and credit side of the cash book, then record the totals on a separate sheet of paper. Don't record the total in the cash book at this stage. Remember, the debit side of the cash book shows the totals of all the cash receipts during a period, and the credit side shows all the cash payment of that period. Since payments of cash cannot exceed the receipts of cash, the debit side is always greater than the credit side under normal situations. Then our third step, we have subtract the smaller total from the bigger total to get the difference between the two sides. Our fourth step, we have record the difference on the smaller side, usually the credit side, as balance carried down to make the two sides equal. The date column, the last date of the closing period, usually a month, is written for the balance carried down. Then our fifth step, we have draw the horizontal line below the last figure or entry on the side with the longest list of entries or transaction entered. Draw another horizontal line at the same level on the other side. Then our 6th step, we have record the bigger total below the horizontal lines on both sides. Remember, after entering the balance carried down, which is balance C/D on the smaller side, the two sides are then equal. Underline the total of the cash book with two lines to close the cash account. Then our 7th step, we have enter the difference between the two sides again below the totals on the bigger side, which is usually the debit side, and it should be opposite to the balance carried down, which is abbreviated as C/D. Name it balance brought down, which is abbreviated as B/D in the details column. This balance shows the amount of cash at hand at the beginning of the next period. It is therefore written with the first date of the month. Let us now look at the 2-column cash book. Some businesses have bank accounts. This means that such kind of businesses can receive payment through the banks from their customers when they deposit the money into their accounts. The business is also able to pay out money using the bank. Such type of a business that have a bank account, the appropriate cash book to use in recording bank transaction is the 2-column cash book. The 2-column cash book is made up of two accounts, namely the cash account and the bank account. Both of these accounts have the debit and the credit side. On the debit side of the cash account, cash receipts are recorded, and on the credit side of the cash account, cash payments are recorded. On the debit side of the bank, money received by check is recorded here, and on the credit side of the bank account, money paid by the business using check is recorded. The 2-column cash book is also referred to as the double-column cash book. Let us now look at the format of the 2-column cash book. So the first thing that we have is the title of the cash book. In the first column we have date. In our second column we have details. In our third column we have folio. Then in our fourth column we have the cash account. In the cash account, it's separated into the debit side and the credit side. And in the last column we have the bank account. And the bank account is separated into the debit and the credit side. Then let us now look at recording transaction in 2-column cash book. So all amounts of money received in cash form by the business are recorded in the cash account column on the debit side, and all the money received by the business through checks are recorded on the debit side of the 2-column cash book. All money that is paid out by the business in form of cash is recorded on the credit side of the cash account, and all the money that is paid out by check is recorded on the credit side of the bank account of the 2-column cash book. Then let us look at recording contra entries. A contra entry is a transaction that affects both the cash account and the bank account. Its double entry is completed in the same cash book by recording on both sides of the same cash book, that is, in the column or account that increases, we record on the debit side, and in one that reduces, we record on the credit side. That means that if money is increasing in our cash account, we're going to record it on the debit side, and if money is reducing in our bank account, we're going to record it on the credit side, and this is going to be recorded on the same date, and that is going to signify a contra entry. So there are two major contra entries in accounting. The first one, we have cash deposits into the bank. Then we also have cash withdrawn from the bank for office use. Let us start with cash deposited in the bank. This means cash taken from the business and banked. This transaction increases the value of bank account and reduces the value of the cash account. Therefore, in the 2-column cash book, we record it as follows. Debit bank account. This means that in the bank account, record the money deposited on the debit side. Then credit cash account. This means that in the cash account, record the money by which cash in the business has reduced on the credit side. Then we have cash withdrawn from the bank for office use. This transaction is also known as cashing a check, since withdrawing money from your own current account is done writing a check to pay yourself. This means that the value of the bank account reduces and the cash at hand increases. So in the 2-column cash book, this transaction is affected as follows. Debit cash account, meaning the cash column record the amount of money by which it has increased on the debit side. Then credit bank column, meaning that in the bank column record the amount of money withdrawn on the credit side. So we can say in the 2 transaction, one of the 2 accounts, cash account and bank account, is debited and the other is credited. So an entry is made on both sides of the cash book. While making a contra entry, write the letter C against the entry in the folio or reference column. This means that we don't have to record this entry in any other account in the ledger. Then let us look at recording cash sales directly banked in the 2-column cash book. Cash sales directly banked means that the business has sold goods to a customer who has just deposited the money in the bank account of the business. This is not a contra entry, since bank account increases without a reduction in the cash at hand. When recording such a transaction, we just record the amount by which bank has increased on the debit side in the bank column, and in the details account we record sales because it is the other account affected. Let us now look at recording drawings in the 2-column cash book. The term drawings in accounts refers to cash or goods taken out of the business by the owner for personal use. In the cash book, however, we only record cash taken out, since the cash book only records cash transfers in and out of the business. Cash drawings are recorded by writing the amount taken out of the business for personal use in the cash column on the credit side of the 2-column cash book. In the details column, the word drawings is written because this is the other account affected. Drawings can also be in the way of taking money from the bank account of the business for personal use. The amount of drawings is recorded on the credit side of the 2-column cash book. The business owner should be, as much as possible, try to avoid drawing money or goods out of the business, since it reduces business capital. Then let us look at recording dishonored checks in the 2-column cash book. So a dishonored check is a type of check that is refused to be issued up by the bank because of some reasons. Some reasons that can make a check to be dishonored are having insufficient amount of money on the account of the drawer, or drawer signature differing from his or her specimen signature in the bank. The amount of figures in words differs with the amount of figures in numbers. Taking the check at the bank on an outdated date. For example, if a customer buys goods and pays by check, the amount of money on the check is recorded on the debit side in the bank account in the 2-column cash book. Therefore, when the check is dishonored, the amount of money which was shown to have been received should be taken out of the cash book by now recording it on the credit side in the bank account where money going out of the business is recorded. Then we have recording bank overdrafts in the 2-column cash book. Sometimes a business holding a current account with a bank can be allowed to withdraw more money that he has on his account. This is a short-term credit facility or loan called a bank overdraft, and the interest is charged on it. In case the business was given a bank overdraft in the previous period, means that money received on its bank account was less than the money it withdrew or paid out, and hence the credit side, meaning where payments are done from, was greater than the debit side where received money is recorded. Therefore, the last balance on its bank account or balance breakdown must have been on the credit side, since the balance carried down is put on the smaller side, which in this case must be on the debit side. A bank overdraft sometimes is written as 1st January 2013 balance brought forward, cash at bank, and that's going to be put under the credit side of the bank column. Therefore, a bank overdraft is recorded by entering the amount of money on the credit side, since the business must begin the new period by first paying it to zero balance, and details column we write balance brought forward, which is balance B/F. Then let us now look at balancing the two-column cash book. When balancing the two-column cash book, follow the same procedure as it is done in a single-column cash book, except that each account is handled separately. Begin with the cash account and total up the cash received in the debit cash column. Then subtract the cash spent in the credit cash column. Insert the difference between the two totals on the smaller side, which is usually the credit side, to make the two sides equal. This is called balance carried down, and it is given the last date of the period. After writing the total on the same sides, open the new period with the same figure as a balance breakdown on the debit side. Then go to the bank column and do the same procedure. The bank column can have a greater credit side than the debit side total in case of an overdraft. In such a case, balance carried down appears on the debit side, which is the smaller side, and the balance breakdown appears on the credit side, which is the bigger side. Let us now look at the three-column cash book. A three-column cash book is a book that is made up of three columns, namely the cash column, bank column, and the discount column. In the three-column cash book, an addition of a discount column is added to a two-column cash book. If during a financial period the business had to receive or allow discount, in this case the business will prepare a three-column cash book. The word discount means a reduction made on the original price of goods by the seller. Discount can either be discount allowed or received. Discount allowed is when the business allows a reduction in the original of goods sold, while discount received is when the business receives a reduction in the original price of goods bought. When balancing the two-column cash book, the cash account and the bank account are balanced like in the column cash. The discount allowed and discount received are only totaled. So this program has been brought to you by Joswale. If you want to get connected with me, you can actually check out my social media platforms. I'll meet you next time, and peace and God bless.